Right.
Okay. So this is, just for anybody, if we do put this out there, just for anybody that's watching it, this is a first meeting between myself and Jamie, and we do know each other. We've chatted before, and Jamie's reached out to me saying she's struggling a wee bit, and I said, well, let's hop on a call and see what comes of it. So, Jamie's reached out. Do you mind if I read my note?
No, I have no idea. I have no problem with that whatsoever.
Okay, so we chatted back and forward over Facebook, and what I've got so far from Jamie is she's falling apart. She feels like she's in an identity crisis. Is saying she's been taught a destructive way of being, and she's struggling to show emotions and shuts herself down. Has got the mindsets about don't cry and such like because it means you're weak, etc. And she feels she's got this conditioned way of being that she's now really struggling with because she's perceiving a different truth from this way that she's been conditioned into being. Okay, so that's where we're at as we start the call.
Yeah, I would say that my main difficulties are understanding where I'm going, and trying to release previous behaviours that have been taught, and it all came to a head at the beginning of lockdown, as I've previously said, where I started realising that I was putting up so many barriers, whether it be with throwing myself into work or throwing myself into the kids or the house, or there was always something that needed to be done, and I was never just relaxing and enjoying things. I was always worried about the next step, or always, I was never in the moment. And I seemed to be filling myself, the more I started feeling things, I just filled myself with more and more things to distract me from feeling anything.
Okay. So can I pause you?
Yeah.
Right, okay, so just to be clean, straight honest, for anybody watching this, Jamie and I actually started this call 20 minutes ago, and I kind of stopped the call about 18 minutes in, and I said to Jamie, this would be amazing to record for other people, because there are so many other people in a similar situation to what Jamie's in, and I know because I've been there, and this is what I do and help people with. So, I don't want to waffle on too much here. What I'm noticing is the way you've changed since we put the record button on. Okay, and that's why I've explained what I've explained. So you're more composed. In my experience, you're more composed, you're speaking more kind of clearly. Yeah. So is it that you're kind of partly present to the fact that there will be people that might watch this that might struggle with our dialect, for instance?
I suppose.
And I'm not saying that's completely conscious, but
yeah, no, I suppose because I'm a professional, and I'm an events manager, so I'm used to doing these meetings and things, and I suppose make it more formal in a way, without even meaning to.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
I do all the time on my Zoom calls. It depends who's in the audience, so if who's on the call, I'll adjust. But it takes me. It's something we have to do. There's no point in saying anything if it doesn't go across and land with the other.
Yeah.
Because we're not even in relationship. We're only in relationship with what's moving for us.
Right.
If we don't try to measure the fact that it's landing with the other.
Right. Okay.
There's no point in being here.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's something we do and should do, etc. But there's a price we pay for it, in that we slip out of kind of being your real selves, as and you connecting. And I were, because we come from the same area. We don't need to make the effort, and therefore we can be more present to just what's really moving, rather than I
suppose I'm just trying to make sure that I'm getting across kind of what we've already discussed, and then I should be, and then I'm just trying to say that I'm the main thing that I'm struggling with is my ability to release things from previous, the stress and I suppose defense mechanisms. I would maybe say that's kind of what they were.
Conditioning, yeah.
yeah, to make me feel safe and comfortable with myself, but I never really did feel comfortable and confident and things in anything really.
Okay.
And then now, since my balls have started coming down, and since I've started realizing that, you know, things aren't as I thought they were, I'm struggling. I'm struggling in between making sure that I'm not going back to old behaviours, because I don't want to be like that. I don't want to be angry all the time and stressed and just destructive, basically, purely and simply out of self-protection. I want to move forward, and I'm stuck in this. I know I've said it a few times. I feel like I'm stuck in a limbo of where I don't know how to be. I'm constantly overthinking of, am I behaving right? I know I'm probably being too clinical about it in the sense of black and white, because it isn't black and white. It's not even grey. It's a multitude of, like, a whole rainbow of colours of different things, but I'm feeling very stuck, and I kind of don't know how to go forward. All I know is that I need to go forward. I can't stay where I am. I can't go back. There's no way I can ever go back.
Yep.
But I just, very stuck.
It's a pig, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, for me, you know, I can look at this from various angles and various trainings. But for me, in the first instance, it's beautiful to see somebody being able to acknowledge where they are and be able to kind of express where they're at and own where they're at, and be willing to almost do it. If we do put this video out publicly, that's massive. To be able to do that, it's incredible. So the fact that you are present and conscious to some of what's going on, you're obviously awakening to yourself.
Right.
Okay. Because before we go along in life on a kind of autopilot, where life just kind of happens, and then there comes a point where we, you know, like a pilot in a cockpit where he switches off the autopilot to land the plane, let's say, and we suddenly see everything, and we suddenly, because we're at the controls, and we're like, you know, oh, sugar, you know, this, I can see this and I can see that, and this isn't really what I want, etc., etc. So there's awakening happening, and that's what's meant to happen in life. That's why people end up having psychological disturbance, because the psychological disturbances are part of our guidance. Right. That's part of the guidance system. So we come into the world pure, and we take on this level of kind of psychological functioning, like some psychological chameleon, which is the ego system, the ego structure, psychological functioning, where we use rationale and logic and such like to be able to play the game with this person or that person or whatever. But at the same time, at the core of that, there is always the true pure self, which we can be when, you know, when we're on our own, or you quite often see it, let's say we girls, they're in their bedroom and they're dancing about singing with a hairbrush. They're not all caught up in who's going to come through the door and see me, you know. Go back into psychological functioning, but at the same time, so that's a microcosm of what's happening. What's happening for you now is more the kind of macrocosm. I want to be able to be that truth. I want to be able to be my true self in my daily life, not just have a wee moment of it when nobody's in the house and the radio's on and I sing my heart out, and then somebody comes in and I stop, you know.
No, I understand what you're saying. I mean, but I think for me, it might even go a step beyond that, actually, to the point of where I've actually realised that quite a lot of my life, particularly when I was younger, I didn't really ever have a true self. I was always scrambling around to kind of, I had quite a traumatic upbringing. I never used to think of it as that traumatic. I used to think, you know, my family is just a bit weird. Everybody's behind closed doors, has got their issues, got their problems. And it wasn't until I had this realization, when I slowed down during lockdown, that I was able to see things, people, family, connections for what it really was. And more so than not, I realised that big chunks of my life and personality weren't me at all, and
Mhm.
were there out of fear or out of, you know, paranoia or whatever defense mechanism. I
Yeah.
keep saying defense mechanism, but that's the only
Yeah.
way I can really explain it. It's
That's
my
okay.
me trying to keep myself safe.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
I feel like I've been on constant high alert for a really long time, just waiting for the next thing, waiting for the next thing, while trying to look for the next thing to do to
Mhm.
keep me going.
Mhm.
And now I don't really have the next thing.
Yeah.
I don't have because I'm stepping out of an area where, you know, you get your A, you get your step A, you get your step B, you get your, you know, you get all these
Yeah.
different steps of
Yeah.
life, of how it's supposed to be lived. And then when you're looking around at other people in society and the people that you surround yourself with, that kind of gives you your next steps
Yeah.
of how you should behave, how you should be. And
Mhm.
now I'm distancing myself from destructive, not destructive, maybe that's from some people that I don't really think are not intentionally doing anything bad to me, but they're on a different journey, they're on a different path, and they're, you know, I've had to step back. So I now don't have the guidance from those around me or the guidance that I've grown up with,
Mhm.
and I'm feeling quite stuck, and I'm feeling very raw. I think a word the right would
Mm.
be a good word. Very raw, very confused and lost,
Mhm.
I suppose, because I'm still trying to look for, you know, people around me for that guidance. But
Can I pause you again?
yeah,
So when you say I'm feeling stuck and I'm feeling really raw and I'm struggling, and you previously said I don't have a sense of my true self,
uh-huh,
that was your true self.
right, okay,
Yeah? And I know you were referring to childhood
yeah,
and behaving certain ways to fit in. And this is Abraham Maslow's hierarchy of needs. You know,
mhm,
we need the air, the water, the shelter, but then we need to be in relationship to get a sense of belonging, etc. So we do adapt, like as I say, the chameleon to fit in.
yeah,
But that true self, as you say, that kind of shuts down and hides, like the yolk inside an egg that's growing into
uh-huh,
a wee chick and eventually hatches out. This is
yeah.
the hatching. This is the hatching.
It's
Okay.
very painful.
And so where was I going? And so for me, you're wisely yes, you look at society and you see the shoulds because that's the typical pattern. Okay.
Mhm,
But you're also, as I can see it here, realizing that's not necessarily what's kind of right and what's real. It's what's maybe typical, but
yeah,
you've got an intuitive sense of something else.
yeah,
And then you're saying, given that I'm so fragile and kind of fragmented here, I really don't need other people in my world right now that's going to make me more that
yeah,
or make me more unstable. So you're actually using your intuition very well here, and you're taking charge of yourself very well here. You know, so you're doing
yeah.
absolutely pretty good. You
I
know, you're
don't feel like it. I
well.
really
Does
don't.
does what I'm saying make sense though?
Yeah, no, it does. No, it
Okay.
really does make sense, actually.
I know it's not the answers you're looking for yet, but
No, no, but
what I hear
the
you
thing
saying
is
is
I suppose I'm not
what I
really
hear.
looking
Well, let me
for
say this
direct
first. What I
answers.
hear you saying is, I'm here, and I'm not wanting to slip here, so I'm not doing this and I'm not doing that. You're not yet getting to where you want, but you're slipping to where you don't want,
Mhm.
which is productive. Right, sorry, go on.
No, well, I hear what you're saying. I do get what you're saying, but I think I'm now at the stage of where I'm almost over analysing
Mhm.
the possibilities of what could make me slip back a little bit more, because I've still got my insecurities and I've got I'm finding my feet with confidence in myself, but because I'm
Yeah.
still so uneasy between previous behavior patterns and previous ways of looking at things, and I'm looking forward, and there is no there's no set guidance because it's my journey, it's no one else's. There's
Yeah.
no set guidance, and I'm kind of looking out into this big broad spectrum of things that in directions I could possibly go, and it's so overwhelming because it's not just a simple, it's, you know, it's everything. It's emotions, it's mental patterns, it's physical patterns, it's pretty much everything in your life going into new stages. And it's so overwhelming, and my inner kind of, I'm kind of going into panic mode a little bit, because I'm scared a little bit, and I don't have a lot of self-belief in, am I doing the right thing, and I don't want to fail, and I, you know, and then you've got all the normal everyday pressures of being a mum and a partner and stuff like that. But
And then you've got to try and fit breathing in on that as well somewhere.
Yes, breathing is, yeah, I would need to start breathing a bit more. I'm finding I love talking about this stuff, but it takes me to a place of where I start to panic, because it's exciting, but it's very, very scary, and it's the unknown from anything in my life ever. I mean, I do have family members who, you know, I've kind of always had a certain sense of spirituality growing up, from different angles, but I'm starting to realize that those other people who were perhaps using the spirituality were using that, not using it, it's the wrong word, were dabbling with the spirituality, were perhaps doing it to make themselves feel more in control. Does that make sense? And I'm realizing, and I'm realizing on this journey that I'm taking, that there's more to it than, you know, just, I don't know how to explain it. I look at other people sometimes, family members and friends, who try to go down certain paths, and I understand why they're doing it, and I, you know, believe in quite a lot of what they're saying, but it's like they're just reading from a guidebook of things rather than actually, and
what's going on for them.
Yeah.
So let's pause, right? So let's pause, because I want to do something right here, right now, to help me to become more present. Okay. So I want to do exactly what you're alluding to, is what's real for you, not what are you reading about and thinking is the way or whatever. So the realization I had just 10-20 seconds ago was, I became aware that I was semi-present to the fact it's been recorded, and what am I going to do to demonstrate the work that I do and how I help people. Okay. And I realized in the moment that by being present to that, I wasn't entirely present to you in the way that I want to be, but also in the way that, as you know, what we've done in that first 18 minutes, it was, I would say it was juicier than where we are, because I caught you here and I caught you, and the whole thing just was amazing. And then I said, let's record this. Okay. And it's come down a wee bit. Okay. So I want to own that and acknowledge it. I also want to own and acknowledge there's a part of me then wants to move towards coaching you and guiding you. Okay. But what I'm sensing, if I stay in the present moment, is you're not ready to be coached right now. It's desperately what you're asking for. But in this present moment, I'm not sensing you are. What I'm sensing is you want to just get this all out to somebody that gets it and understands, and somebody that can help you and hold you. Okay. So my reason for saying all of that was partly because it's what's moving, partly to do with letting people see that I can see that's what's going on, but also then more particularly so that I can say to you, okay, I'm not going to coach you, I'm not going to try and engage you, sell you anything, whatever. What I sense you need right now is for me to just listen to you. Yeah. Really? A bit of guidance. Okay. Okay. So it's interesting you immediately kind of sit back a bit, you know.
No, I'm just no, I was rearranging my legs. I currently don't have a sofa to sit on. So.
But I just want to say that, you know, this is essentially what could turn into a midlife crisis, which is what happened to me. Not listening, which is spiritual awakening. It's just another developmental phase in life that we call spiritual awakening. And the only reason it becomes a crisis is because we're getting in the way of it happening. You stop paying your rent, you'll have a crisis. You stop cleaning your house, you'll have a crisis. You stop, you know, whatever, you can end up a crisis. And when we get in the way of this progression in life and our level of development and functioning, it can become a crisis and then it'll go bang. You know, and a lot of people end up there and end up in Stratheden and medicated and all the rest of it, which is again adds to the fear. So what you're doing by reaching out is absolutely ideal. You mentioned earlier that, you know, you're the sort of person that fixes things yourself and works it out yourself and sorts it yourself. And in a sense, that's what you're doing by reaching out and accepting help. Because as you alluded to earlier, there isn't really the obvious, blatant kind of guidance out there. Normally we can look to people that's older than us, you know, and kind of get whipped into that next level. But where you're going is ahead of where the mainstream society is just now. There's not a lot of people out there that have gone through midlife crisis in a forward direction. Lots of people hit midlife crisis and go back to what they know. So that, you know, they dress young again, they might have the affair, they'll buy the motorbike, they'll start living young again. So they'll reattach to life by going backwards. But you're obviously not, that doesn't look like it's for you. It could happen, but that's not going in because you're reaching out already. You're moving forward. So go for it.
I suppose it's very hard to describe. I'm trying. How do I put? I'm trying to think of the right word and to put this into. I'm stuck.
Okay, good. Right, go and stop. Right?
Okay.
I'm trying to think of the right word. Okay, so it's a perfect example. Don't try, because most of what you said earlier, you weren't trying. You were in the flow.
Yeah.
So just chill, just relax.
Okay. Right.
Because what you're moving to in life is being receptive to a different type of guidance. So if you imagine a funnel that kind of comes in and then goes back out like that. Now, I've never used that metaphor before. I've been doing this for 13 years and I've never used that metaphor. But a lot of the guidance you've been receiving has been from your conditioning, your mindsets, your maintaining cycles, projections, neurosis, all sorts of psychological functioning have been guiding you here. And what I'm inviting you to do is to open to being receptive to spiritual guidance that's there as well.
I suppose where I keep going and my head keeps trying to take me to is going and talking a little bit about nature.
Okay, good.
That during lockdown helped a lot of people, but it really specifically helped me. And I actually spent the majority of the first lockdown in my garden or in the woods. And if I needed to go for a cry or anything like that, I felt completely comfortable doing it out in nature, actually. But now I feel it helps me calm things on a basic level, but I feel that there's more to it, and I need to kind of take that to another level. And I've got all these ideas of, you know, oh, this has worked for me during the first part of this process, and this has worked for me for that and everything else. And I suppose I feel like I'm scrambling around trying to find things that have worked or slightly worked for the time being, but I feel like I'm at a standstill and I don't know where to go next. I don't know what's next, and I'm getting frustrated. I'm getting really frustrated because I'm trying, like I was saying previously, I'm trying so hard not to slip back to old behaviours, and I don't think I ever could go back to old behaviours, because sometimes when you know, certain sayings that I used to say come out, you know, when I'm dealing with my children, or I'm being too flippant, or I'm trying to do something and the kids are at me, and you know, everybody gets that bit, and you know, I'll turn around and I'll snap, or I'll turn around and I'll get frustrated with them when it's not their fault. You know, I just, you know, I still do it occasionally, and then I'll backtrack and I'll be like, listen, I'm really sorry, you know, mum's just trying to do something at the moment, and I'll try and deal with it differently than I ever have dealt with it before. And I'm viewing life differently as well, but I suppose I'm still self-correcting. I'm still, you know, I feel like I'm not going forward, and I don't know how to go forward, if you know my meaning, because I'm still fighting a lot of previous things, but I feel like there is so much. I feel like I'm at a point now of where I need to continue moving forward. I need to, I need, not need, I want and need to keep moving
for
forward.
your sanity, you feel the need,
Yeah, because if I suppose I'm worried a little bit that perhaps, you know, I'm going to start slipping into a place where I don't need to be, and I really don't want to be. And if I don't, if I don't find not the next thing, because that's too putting it in a box. You can't really put this in a box. You can't really put it in a specific category. It's that's too limiting, I think. But I just feel very stationary, and I don't know what I'm doing.
Yeah, beautiful, well done. I mean, you're almost essentially in a birth canal, really, and it's like you're saying you've kind of detached from the old womb, but you haven't found the new womb. You've not found the next thing that's going to nurture you, contain you, etc. Well, you have, because you're here actually, but you maybe don't quite realize that. That's fine. But it was also beautiful when you said, you know, I'll take myself off to the woods and I'll cry, and I could feel your heart, I could feel your vulnerability, which is beautiful. And there's nothing that's not also wonderful and beautiful about the way you're articulating yourself, and the way you're articulating this whole experience is incredible. You know, if we put this video out, you're going to help so many people.
I like the sound of that.
Quite touching. Just by owning your truth and owning the struggle that you're in, and the way that you're managing to do it is incredible. But when you, as I said earlier, drop to being able to be vulnerable, which takes us back to what, you know, the note that I wrote down from the Facebook messaging yesterday, have an inability to be vulnerable because it's weak, and you know, all the conditioned voices, neurosis around what's right, what's wrong, you know, which to some extent can be called superego, where we've taken in what we've been told and perceive it to be truth and who we are, and we go through various phases. But it's lovely to see the Jamie that can be in the struggle and articulate the struggle, but is also her heart, and able to be her heart's truth, because that's a big part of where you're trying to go to. How can I be able to be my heart's truth, be the love that I essentially am, you know, and not feel wrong or bad or weak or whatever, because that's what I've been told and what I bought into in childhood. And you're doing it here. And what happens when you do it, because a lot of this work is about, it's not about just giving people the insights and the education. It's about helping people to take an action and see that action. So when you say, I can't be vulnerable because it's weak and I can't share my feelings and express myself.
Well, I suppose in a way, I've learned that I can. Maybe that was, I can do it. It's just very, very difficult, and it's, I mean, currently right now, you know, I can hear my, you know, things kicking off in my head, like shut up, or, you know, be careful what you're discussing, or am I sounding like I'm moaning, or, you know, lots of negative self-talk, I suppose, in a roundabout way. But so I am getting there with it, but some days are worse than others, where some days that voice is a lot louder. And because this whole I found this process is very exhausting, not just mentally but physically. It's you know, sometimes I feel like I've been on a 3-night bender and I haven't even done anything. You know, and it's almost like a hangover state sometimes, because I'm constantly fighting a way of being that isn't for me anymore. And isn't,
wow.
it's but it's so exhausting. It's so exhausting. And then
Yeah.
on the days that I am overly exhausted, I feel like I'm taking about 20 steps back, even though on days when I'm feeling okay, I know I'm not, but it's the negativity and the, I suppose, the cages of the box that I've been in for most of my life, trying to kind of give the old me a bit of security, or should I say, I suppose in a way, the inner me, or not the inner me, the child me, who needs a little bit of protecting and who needs a little bit of something to, you know, cocoon them a little bit. It's so difficult not just to go back, and it's so scary, and it's I'm just really struggling. But I have to say, one of the main things, the good things that's come out of this journey for me, is actually the acceptance of the fact of my mum passing. And I've actually come into the realization that after she passed, and she's finished this leg of the journey, and she's now on her next part of the journey, however devastating it is that she's not here, and however much I miss her, I think if she hadn't have gone, then I wouldn't be where I am today, because without her meaning to a degree, she actually kind of, not in a negative way, but she kind of helped with the cocooning of the little girl inside me, to protect from other things that were going on in the family and things like that. So she kind of enabled that a little bit, but she was just trying to be a mum. And yeah. But since accepting and kind of, you know, there's been a lot of tears, there's been a lot of the past 2 years of during COVID and things, it's been very emotional, but nothing to do with the virus or anything like that, but to do with the fact of me being forced to think and feel, and I don't know, I suppose release
in a sense,
lot.
not distract yourself with other stuff.
Yes, just fill my day full of so many barriers and you know, and things that I didn't have the opportunity to feel.
Good.
It was almost it was almost like my emotions were bursting to get out, and I'd run myself into the ground so much. You know, I was at the time, I was a single mum, and I was working like 5 or 6 days a week in the office, and then I was also working, you know, I'd come home, I'd deal with the kids, and then I'd have work to do in the evening. So by the time the kids went to bed, I was up until about 1 o'clock, maybe sometimes 2 o'clock in the morning on the laptop, and then getting up again at 6 in the morning.
Can I pause you again, right? I'll
Yeah.
keep a note of what you were talking about,
Yeah.
because I want you to continue, right? And I'm not going to do what I did before we started the recording, where you were going up here and your head was bursting and I kind of brought you down, right? That's not where I'm going. Where I'm going this time is, so you're telling a story about how life's been, okay? And I want you to see if you can be aware of what I'm sensing, which is, here I see yourself, sat here, being able to be your truth, own your truth, express your truth, be real, and not be all the things that you're saying you've spent a lifetime being. So I want you to evidence, if you can, you're not being that right here, right now.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think so. I think I understand what you mean. Yeah. So I suppose in doing all those things, I stopped. I basically just kept filling my day up with more and more things to do that stopped me from slowing down. As soon as the kids were in bed, I hated being in the house. As soon as the kids were at school, I hated being in the house. I hated it because it meant
you're astounding at this.
Okay.
You are. I couldn't have paid somebody. I could not have paid somebody to come on here and do a one-to-one with me and record it and express so much of the breadth, the volume, and the depth of what the place is like that you're in. It's incredible the way you're able to
thank you very much.
tap into it and express it and offer it. This is going to help so many people.
I'm really glad to hear it, actually, because I think that is definitely also something else that I feel like I've learned, is that it's, how would I put it? It's almost like an awakening, as we've, you know,
Yeah.
that's a good word, an awakening.
Mm-hmm. Did you hear the siren in my background? No, or did you hear it in the village?
No.
There's a siren there. So when you were speaking, I was thinking emergency, because that's partly what this is a spiritual emergency.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when I'm saying emergency, we normally think somebody's hurt, it's an emergency. But the word emergent is also something coming out, something emerging, a chick from an egg. So this is a spiritual emergency. Okay.
I think emerging from things has, as I can't even remember where I was going with that there for a second.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, it's fine. No, I've got it. It's to do with helping other people. I think I know that further down the line, when I feel a little bit more comfortable with myself and more confident in where I am, and a little bit more stable with where I am, I would like to help other people, because, you know, even looking around at family and friends and, you know, my children, things like that, and seeing how even my own behaviour has influenced them as people, and my own conditioning has enabled them to continue down a path without being challenged. And I think that I would really like in the future to be able to share what I've learned, how I think, and see if it resonates with anybody, and hopefully it does, and then perhaps they can then find their own path into where they need to be. You know, it's
so what's actually happening there is you're going from kind of egocentric, all about me, and I'm quite happy to steal like my brother's food because it's about me, it doesn't matter about him or whatever, that type of thing, to more kind of family centric. So you're at school and you're protecting your siblings type thing, you know, it's about my family against the world. And then that expands and expands and expands. So it's like, it could be as a teenager that your village or town's, you know, warring against the other village or town, etc. And then, or it could be men against women type thing. You could be going to women's rights movement type thing, or, and it basically expands out and out and out and out.
Well, to be quite honest, I'm kind of at the stage now where it's not just about a specific person or a specific type of person or a specific person surrounded by me. It's in my head, it's also a lot of people that I've not even met yet. I don't even know they exist yet. And I think I know that's where I need to be. Wow. It's just getting there. I know that's where I need to be.
Good. I'm glad you repeated it. Good.
I do. I totally know that's where I need to be. And I don't even know what that looks like yet. I'm constantly scrambling around trying to find an image or a picture or as I said earlier, a step-by-step guide. And I know that that's not there. I know, and that's, I think, is what scares me, is the fact that I don't know what it looks like. I don't know where it's going to go. I don't even know I don't even know if that's my final destination of where I need to be. But all I know is that I know I am potentially heading in the right direction. I'm in a very vulnerable place right now where, because I can't see and I can't find that step by step, it's making me feel very scared, very uneasy, and it's making me second guess myself a lot. So yeah, I think that's kind of where I'm at right now.
Wow. Yeah, it's meant to happen. It's meant to happen, and as I said earlier, it feels like something going wrong, something going bad, etc. But it's something trying to go right. If we can let it, and if we can find the right people to help us, we do get through it. For me, it was back in 2004, and I completely collapsed. I was there. I wasn't finding the help. A wee girl died. Well, she chose to leave this world. She had the opportunity of an operation, but her life hadn't been much fun, let's say, and the wee girl herself made the choice, which was devastating. There's a whole, As you
Are
can
you
see,
okay?
it's you know.
Yeah.
So that was my complete collapse. But where I had been was I had actually started having. I'd gone from where you are just now to like taking up Reiki, and I was reading the Bible and the Bhagavad Gita, and I was searching everywhere for answers. This gets me every time, and I didn't get answers there. I just undermined everything that had held me up in life so far, a bit like where you are. But as I began to tap into the likes of nature and such like, and I went on a 9-day intensive esoteric retreat in the Borders, and I had various peak experiences. And then as a consequence of that, I started having psychotic episodes, lying in bed at night crying and stuff, trying to hide it off from my wife, my kids, my employees, that I was a mess. And keep working because the employees needed the job as well, and I was frightened I'd get locked up. So I get it, it's scary as hell. But it was only when I actually did collapse completely, and I thought, I give in. I can't do this. Give me a sign, give me something, you know. And I surrendered to that bigger guidance without even realizing that's what I was doing. That I went in. I was going into the bank one day in Cooper. I walked past somebody that offered me the big issue. I said no thanks. But as I walked past, it was like part of my body stayed behind. You know, it was because I was in, my psyche was so porous. Done my business in the bank, came out, and they offered that again. But this time it was like, take the big issue. You know, it's not what they said. It was like big issue, sir.
But to you, it came across as
the space I was in. Time slowed down and everything. And long story short, went to an event in Edinburgh, signed up, done the master's degree in London, spent 5 years going up and down to London, spent tens of thousands of pounds, and saved my sanity. So I didn't go to learn to become a spiritual life coach. I went to save my sanity and became a life coach, and now I help people with the same thing. So it's the journey that's there, and I found the right guidance eventually. You know?
Could I pause you for a second, please? Could we pause the record? I just need to use the ladies' room.
Okay. So if I can't pause it, pause, stop. Okay, pause. Okay. I'm aware I'm going to have to watch the length of this recording because my internet's terrible. This recording may actually be rubbish because my upload speed's like 0.7. It's horrendous. And what usually happens is there's big blank spaces in my recordings.
Right, okay.
So I'm hoping that that's not the case.
Well, see, that's the price you pay for living in such a beautiful place in the middle of nowhere. Rubbish Wi-Fi.
So we'll do a last wee bit and then we'll stop the recording because you've done so much. It's been unbelievable. And then we'll finish our call. But I want to do that because I want to capture this for so many other people. This could take from now till tomorrow at this time to upload onto YouTube. It's unbelievable. Okay, but it is what it is. So for the sake of anybody that does see this, if we put it out, I just want to say, again, reiterate, this is something going right, not going wrong. And you're doing incredibly well with it. And you found myself. I'm the ideal person to help you with this. I know this inside out, this stuff. It's who I am, it's what I'm about, it's what I do. Okay, and I will get you through this and get you to the other side. Okay?
Okay.
I don't know if there's anything else to add to that. How have you found this then? How's this been for you?
This here.
Just us here doing this chat.
It's actually been really, really good. It's actually been nice to sit and have a discussion with somebody where I don't feel like I'm second guessing myself with you. Whereas I think that's one of the problems that I have been having in this process is the fact that obviously because there are so many people around me that I love and care for, and I'm coming out with all this new stuff, and you're worried that they're going to look at you differently, or you're worried that they're going to think, oh, she's losing it. You know, she's quick, go lock her up or something like that.
And they try to fix you by bringing you backwards.
And it's quite a difficult process in that sense. It's because it is so lonely. It can be really lonely to the point of where you know, you find yourself almost emotionally isolated a little bit. And that, I think, is one of the main issues that I found is that I've not had with this call, is the fact that, you know, when you're trying to open yourself up and you're trying to speak to people about all these new things you're thinking.
Can I pause you one wee bit there? Go and repeat that, but use the I word, because we use the you word when we're generalizing and we don't want to feel it. Okay. And you're not wrong. You're right with the you, but in terms of your kind of a bit of therapy for you, to use the I word, you feel it a bit. So.
Well, I didn't even realize I'd used it.
I know you didn't. I know.
You're gonna have to tell me where I used it.
So you were talking about the emotional isolation.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yes, I feel emotionally isolated when
you feel
I'm trying to just. Yeah, I do. Yeah.
I saw it in your face.
Yeah, I feel emotionally isolated when I'm discussing these things, because I already, you know, before I even started this process, I already didn't have a lot of self-esteem or wasn't very sure of who I was, and I'm still struggling with that a little bit. But throughout this whole process, you're already fighting so much inside you of I am already fighting so much inside of me that to try and articulate that to other people who aren't going through the same process and who are still in their own little bubble and their own journey, their own thought processes, it's very difficult to kind of approach the people that you care about, or, you know, even people who you've only had an association with. Maybe like me and you, we've had an association before, but this is I know for a fact that I'm different now compared to how I was when we first met, and it's nice to be able to connect with you on this level. And I don't feel any sort of, I feel quite confident in what I'm saying and confident in how I'm feeling when I'm discussing it with you, but that's quite difficult with people who aren't there.
Absolutely. We need to find our tribe, our family, but also I just want to say, when you use the word confidence and confident, etc., there's a lots of words we use that lose the spirit of the word. The spirit of the word for me is confident. So when you say I'm not very self-confident, you're really saying I'm not really self-confident. I can't confide in myself because there's such a mess in here. I listen to what everybody else has got to say. Yeah, and that's part of what happens.
I would say, I'm more. That is something that I'm struggling to leave behind me. Actually, is worrying what others think, worrying how I come across to other people, because I suppose growing up, that was something that was kind of built into me, was to constantly be aware of other people's behaviours, how other people are behaving, and then respond accordingly. But I've done a little bit of research into and a little bit of experimentation with myself with some trauma responses and things, because now that I have that realisation, I did have a traumatic upbringing and it wasn't very nice, and it was horrible. And that is, you know, it's something completely conflicting to where I am now.
Can I pause you? We'll continue. Yeah. I want to end the recording because my fear is if I go on with the recording too long, it won't actually take the podcast.
No, that's fine.
Upload it, and it would be such a shame. And I don't have the skills and the knowledge to edit it and do all that stuff.
No, that's fine.
So
well, could I just say one more thing?
Go on.
Is that for anybody, it's not just, you know, to do with our conversation, it's to do with the fact of that I've come here to kind of relate to someone, and I think that is for anybody who does eventually watch this, if they do watch it, is that however lonely this process is, and however easy it is or it might seem easy to revert back to old behaviours and things, that I do know that it's scary and everything, but that it needs to just to know that people aren't alone, no matter how much they feel alone, and that to keep with it. And I suppose by me reaching out to you, this is me trying to keep with it. This is me trying to make sense of it a little bit more. And I hope this video does help other people.